Well, welcome back. Long time no see. Pleasure to see you all here. And this kicks off the next phase of our conversation today. And we're doing a Screenside chat with Nick Colvill, the founder, CEO, and creator of Jurat Inc. and their Notary eJournal, which is super cool. And I'm here. Laura Buer is co-hosting this conversation with me. Hi, Laura. Welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very, very excited to have this conversation because I love, love, love my journal.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kick off too. I'm going to bring Nick up, of course, and we're going to introduce him. But before we do that, Laura, I know you are a raving fan of the Notary eJournal. Do you want to share just a little bit about your experience and why you love it so much?
Well, I've been using it for I think it'll be almost 2 years in August, maybe. It seems I almost cannot remember a time when I was using the paper journal. But for those of you who know how I coach notaries, it's to be thorough in the job. It's to document everything. It's to make sure that it supports you later because it's your BFF if you're ever in front of Judge Judy. All right, so that was what made me kind of hold back a little bit because I thought, how could it be as good as, my paper journal? And I have to say, when I changed over, I could not believe the difference. And so for those of you who are doing packages like loan signings and trust work particularly, oh my God, the time reducement, that's my first thing, is that I was spending at least 20 minutes of the time focused on entering everything into the journal. And that cut down to maybe 5-6 minutes is journaling time. And that's sprinkled out because I can keep up as I'm presenting documents, number one. Number two, I could enjoy the appointment more because I wasn't heads down I was in the paper journal and I'm not with this one. And then the other thing is it saved my hands. I may have had to retire sooner than I planned because I was developing arthritis with all the writing in my left hand, and the eJournal alleviated that problem for me. And then my clients see me as an up and coming, trending, what's new kind of notary with the technology at the table. So they saw my work as keeping pace with the rest of the world. So those were all the things that started changing, and people were so interested. They loved the thumbprinting device because, of course, we have that in California. We're required to have that. And I show them, they were really interested in scraping the information off of their ID card and how I can tell if there's a discrepancy between what's on the front of their card and what's on the back of their card. That was fantastic. So just really takes it up a notch, right, in the practice. So for all those reasons and more, and of course the support is great because every time I think, why can't it do this? Why I want it to do that? How do I do this? The guy's just a phone call away.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, Laura. The response time to support is incredible. And it's surprising how important the cool factor is, because what is cool factor? It's a conversation starter.
It is.
And if you're looking to build and cultivate a relationship, this is a great way to do it. And then the reality is, if it's saving you time, it is making you money. And that's extremely important, because if you're not spending an extra 45 minutes journaling, guess what you can be doing? Cultivating relationships, enjoying your life, or growing your business. Without further ado, I'm inviting Nick Colvill, the founder, CEO, and creator of the Notary eJournal by Jurat Inc. Hey, Nick.
Hey, audio check. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, and I can see that roaring fire. It kind of makes me want to jump right through this screen. Look at you getting into it.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be called a fireside chat. Turns out it was a screenside chat. So I started the fire. I love fires anyway, so my wife knows that any excuse I can take to burn something in this fireplace, I will happily take it. And so here I am now. You guys hopefully can get the warm, fuzzy feeling And if not, then there's a bear right there, and he's warm and fuzzy too. So we got it all for you guys, and I'm very happy to be here. I was on the whole call for the TNT, and I just wanted to quickly congratulate you guys on that book launch, because it's amazing. And I think one of the things it does is it helps.
We lost you, Nick.
Uh-oh.
You're back.
I'm back. Okay. Maybe. Okay. It says
You were just saying how amazing we were.
Well, and you are. I just wanted to say my favorite thing about your book is how it humbles yourself if you're open to learning, and you learn about something new. As a notary, it's actually the opposite quite often when you're in front of a client and they say, "Hey, can you perform this type of notarization?" And I guarantee all of us have said yes, even though we've probably never seen. If it's something new, we may have never seen what they brought to the table before. But the over exuding confidence as an independent notary, you say absolutely, and then you try to dig into it right at that point in time. So, when you do the opposite of that and you just open yourself up to, like, let me learn something about being a notary. That's what I loved about your book, guys. My favorite part was the bail bonds portion. So hopefully other people pick up that book and read it, because it was fantastic. And congratulations on that release, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. We're excited about it too. And I think it's going to be a game changer. But as we were saying, even as part of that conversation, part of the game changer, sure, education, finding different niches, but also having technology that makes you more efficient or helps you stand out in a sea of sameness. And that's exactly where you step in. And I know we've had you on for Screenside chats before. It's been great. We're really blowing minds with the technology you offer, but you have been working hard over the last at least year. I think it's been almost 2 years now on this next release. So I'm going to leave it to you on how you'd like to proceed. Do you want to give us a demo for people who have never heard of you? They don't know what this is, or would you rather just dive right into your new releases?
I'll briefly touch on what makes us us. What makes us the highest rated Notary Journal app on the marketplace today. I'll touch on that, but I really do want to focus on the new features and then the Q&A at the end. So I do see people like Nate Shunda. Go ahead and put the questions in the chat there, and we'll circle back to that, because I can't stress how important it is to ask questions to get the right answers when it comes to something that have legal implications. It could have legal implications for you as a professional notary. You always got to make sure that you cover all your bases. So all the questions, throw them in the chat. We'll do a Q&A at the end. Now, obviously we built the product because we needed a better solution in California. I'm a notary on my third commission, my wife on her fifth, and she's also been an escrow officer for almost 2.5, 3 decades. And now she's a county manager for Fidelity. So we have a lot of deep roots here in being a notary, and I got into it because of her, and then quickly realized that I was spending more time journaling than I wanted to, especially we talk about this in front of the people. And if you can focus on the client, which is what our product allows you to do, you can provide them a better experience, and the likelihood of them reaching back out to you is much higher. And not only does that more efficient, more optimal, and more cool workflow make you look good, but almost more importantly, it makes whoever you are representing also look great. And that means lenders, that means your escrow officers, the people who are most likely feeding you and putting those orders in front of you and reaching out to you every time they put an order in, or they have to go reach out to the notary. They're making a conscious decision based on their experience with you. And that's what I love about a product like ours. It allows you to focus on the client. And if the client then turns back around and says, Nick did a great job as a notary. He was efficient. He was clean. I really enjoyed the digital thumbprint. I only had to do it once, not 10 times for this loan package. All of that rubs off on the notaries, and then the EOs, and then of course the lenders as well too. And so it's just a circle that you create where everybody's happy. And I think that's where the genesis of our product came. Again, we were having too much trouble. I was just journaling, jotting down everything, and then doing all the thumbprints, and there was a hassle. I looked to find a better solution, could not find one that was California compliant. I mean, there's almost nobody else on the marketplace anyway. We have Notary Act out there, but they weren't compliant in California. So I kind of reached out to a few people who I've worked with in the past in the tech industry, because I do live in Silicon Valley. And I said, okay, let's go ahead and put our heads together and give it a shot. So that's how we got where we are now. We're a little bit over 2 years on the market, 2.5 years. And immediately once we launched the product, we saw demand from all the other states, not just California. So we have active users in over, I think it's over 44 states now. So notaries all over the place. And that's where the pride and joy comes in. But that's also where me as a perfectionist, I begin to figure out a better way to fine tune the product or hone our craft, if you will, to suit the needs of these notaries in other states. A silly but a small example would be when we first launched. We're California notaries. We don't deal with this situation, but we had a user download it and say, well, how do I identify somebody as personally known? And I had to look that up, and I was like, my gosh, I can't do that in California. I've never heard of being able to just say, oh, I know this person, and therefore I can vouch for them and notarize their documents without identification. That, to me, that blew my mind, right? So I needed to really open up very quickly, the lines of communication with our users and get the feedback so that we can continue to build the product in the direction that will best suit everybody, not just California notaries, not just Texas, for example. Then our biggest states are Texas, Florida, California, New York. Those are our four biggest marketplaces. And so we get a lot of feedback from them as well too, but I always pay special close attention when we have some of the users in other states tell me something about what they may want,
Well,
maybe their habits as a notary.
Nick, let's stop there for just 1 second, because I think this is an important point, and I love how responsive you are and how you listen to your users. And there's probably some sitting on the call right now thinking, well, I don't even know if I can use this in my state. So how many states can use the Notary eJournal?
So great question. And what we always discuss when people talk about compliance, well, I use the word compliance. Within our company, we use the word compliance. Many people mistakenly use the word like approval. Are you approved for use in my state? And the Secretary of States do not approve or deny a journal product. They simply set the stipulations and the legal requirements. And there are a few states in which we cannot be used for in-person tangible notarizations. And in those states, and we're talking Washington, not DC, but Washington, Missouri is one of them where they're on the fence about it, Arizona and Nevada. And these are the ones that they put special verbiage in their notary law that stipulates maybe the size requirements of the hardbound journal, things that are meant to ensure a sequential nature to your journal, but the side effect of them using that verbiage is preventing notaries from using an electronic journal. So those are the only 4 states in which we're on the fence in terms of usability. And I say on the fence because many of those states have passed either RON legislation, so a notary can perform remote online notarization, or IPIN is also usable. And many of those states, they allow you to use an electronic journal for the RON entries and for the IPIN entries. And that's because they have to, right? Pretty much if a state allows you to do a remote online notarization, then they will by default have to allow you to manage an electronic journal, because that's how those entries are created in those softwares and solutions. So to answer the question, those are the 4 states in which the in-person tangibles, in person with your own stamp, writing down, it would not be applicable to use. But if you're doing the electronic notarizations and the in-person, the remote online notarizations, you can use it there.
So
hopefully that answers your question.
46 states, you can use the Notary eJournal.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the I think that's the bulk of our audience. Unfortunately, I lived in Arizona and now I live in Washington, so I've been avoiding the Notary eJournal. I can't use it at all, but I still love it. I have it downloaded. I think it's amazing. And I can't wait to see these new updates that you've got going on here, Nick.
We have a lot in the pipeline, a lot, which is nice. I'm going to share my screen in just a minute to show you guys what we do have in store, but I want to touch on a few of our most used and positively, talked about features. One of them is, of course, Laura talked about it, scanning the IDs super fast. You pull all the data. We don't store the pictures. To me, that would be a big no-no. A lot of notaries do ask, and we do get this a lot. We have very open lines of communication. So we ask for the feedback, and then people might want something, and we may not give it to them based on what we think is maybe appropriate. So, for example, the scalping of the IDs, it's super fast, 3 seconds you pull that data front and back. But then people ask, hey, can we get a picture of that ID? And we don't do that right now because we don't want to encroach on the privacy of that person whose ID you scanned. So we have a little prompt that says no pictures are stored. But in terms of data entry, it's super fast. At the end of the Notary Journal entry too, one of our favorite features is the ability to send that person a automated email on the back end that will have your signature line with your business name, and it'll tell them the gist of what they just had done. These are the documents you had notarized. Here's who notarized you. And this is twofold for you to be able to reach out to that person, you being the signer. So the signer can reach back out to the notary and request a journal entry if needed. Many states stipulate the requirements for that request. So you might have to ask, or provide the year or the date in which that was performed, the title of the document. All of those things are going to be contained in this kind of general email. But then also, more importantly, if they had a great time with you, then they may not have kept your business card, but they can easily search your email box and find your contact info. So people do love that a lot. And one of the biggest things with V2 is what we're trying to do is get the web app up to date with the mobile app. So if you step back and look at where we came from, as a California notary, we have to make our journal entries contemporaneously with the Notary Act. So at the same time, we're at the table, and we built first the software on Windows, but it was clunky to carry your laptop with you. It made no sense. Obviously, we had to go mobile. So in doing that, we created a system in which when you create your journal entries, everything is timestamped based on the actions taken. And we inadvertently, in the long run, excluded a potentially large user base of people who don't journal at the same time. Maybe they journal at the end of the week, at the end of the month. Maybe they don't journal as strictly as we do. Maybe they don't capture signatures because they don't have to by law. So there's a lot of users who I feel like were starting to use our product and realize that it wasn't for them because of that. And so this big V2 push was to get the web app experience up to date with the mobile app, and then build a better foundation for us to continue to build our products on. So we're going to talk about what V2 is going to have and show you guys how that's going to look. And then we're going to talk about what's coming after that. So building a better foundation, that's what V2 is doing. For any of you technical savvy people, we had to rebuild everything on Python. We moved from .NET, and we had more comfort building in that environment. So what we did is we built a new web app experience where you can now sign in on the website, create the Notary Journal entries, manage all of your stuff better. Prior to V2, all you could do is pretty much manage your subscription, view, and export, because all the exporting happens online as well too. So the web app itself here, I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share here, and I'm going to show you right where we go into the login page. Now this is the staging environment. So just so you guys are aware, the staging environment may have certain bugs, certain functionality that's not live yet. Things might change. So that's one of those kind of standard disclaimers I have to tell you guys so that you don't hold me to it and come sometime later say, hey, you know what? I saw this on that experience that you showed, and we don't have it anymore. So with that being said, let me go ahead and pull up my screen here to what will be, actually, you know what I'll do? I got a better idea. I'm going to pull up the ugly old version first. That's smart. That way you guys can contrast it, which is sad because I'm so ashamed of the current experience as a perfectionist. I just want to make things
Which
better.
Is so beautiful.
Yeah, and it works. That's the thing, is it works. But I like things when they're a little bit more buttoned up, if you will. And that's what we're doing here with this new set of features. So just loading this in here. This is a test account, so the data is not real. Don't worry. Don't try to scalp anything, guys. Here we go. Screen share with the current web app experience. Right now, you land on your login page where you can do a few different things: reporting, manage your account. This is where you have to have your subscription management handled here, not in the app. We have, a good set of features that allow you to, for example, block certain devices if you feel like you've been compromised. We want to give you guys the tools to, protect yourself and your journal. So we have all the different options for you to do. We do have the reporting so that you could export your reports on a monthly basis. And then we do have just the homepage where it'll list everything out once it loads, but it's my staging account. So it may not decide to load, and that's fine. But if you take a look at, this general layout compared to what we have moving forward here. So what we have moving forward here is a way better experience from start to finish for anybody who's going to be on the web. And again, I imagine this experience will be most beneficial to the people who want to journal outside of their appointment time. I don't imagine people will want to bring their laptop to the appointment and do it there. Now, some may, but and that what I'm getting at when I preface it with that is that a lot of the users who are using our mobile app will probably continue to do so and may not log in here much unless you want some of the fun dashboard stuff that I'm going to show you in just a moment. So the dashboard is going to be great because we're going to have all these live widgets with live data for you to easily visualize your business, if you will. We get this request a lot. We get a lot of requests about better reporting, and we do we try to tread the line between building a better product, and then we don't want to go too far and start to build a different product or build it in a different direction. So, for example, many people who talk about more reporting and accounting for tax purposes, I say go to Notary Assist immediately. That is where you'll go for that. We don't want to build it in that direction because that's a different product. So we do want to give you greater insight into the data that you have already. So, for example, you'll be able to see things like, your signing counts, your notary fees, how much you're collecting, things that you'll be able to move and manipulate. So the data will be stuff that you can manipulate to be real time, which is really fun. So this has a nice landing page dashboard. This will give you a high level overview of your business as well, which is really awesome. Now, when we go into the journal experience itself, we'll see everything. You could search your journal. So Laura talked about, providing a better experience for everybody, including if you have to pull up a journal entry at any point. Doing so when you've been a notary as long as Laura has or I have, is one of those things that you dread. You just hope that nobody requests that entry because that'll take a couple hours at night for you to dig through your books and try to find it. Here, we could easily just search and you could just find that entry based on the keywords, the names, stuff like that. So, we have a great, layout for you, super easy. And then when you click on your entries, of course, it'll open it up and you'll be able to view everything, including the auto log, one of our most talked about features, as well as the auto log to protect you as a notary. So what we do is we try to just use the data that we collect and help you as a notary with that data. And in this case, an auto log will definitely bolster your position if you ever have to deliver an entry to somebody, if they're requesting it, if there's a subpoena involved, if you have to export a time frame of data and you have to provide it. Maybe you get summoned to for a court appearance, which has happened. These things are meant to protect you, the auto log, because you can say, I was here at this time. Here's a timestamp for when this happened. It just protects you as a notary. And an example of why that's important, my wife was just involved with a court case where she was a notary. She got summoned. She was the escrow officer. So she got summoned to it because it was a big lawsuit. And the notary was also summoned, but the notary journal's entry was inadequate. And so it was deemed by the lawyers on both sides to be not beneficial at all. They scrapped it. And that would just be unfortunate because this notary was flown all the way from New York to California because it was an out-of-state transaction. And they have different journal laws, of course, but being able to provide something that could help lawyers in a court case feels good. That's what we do as a public servant, right? We serve the community. And if they could use data like this to bolster their case for somebody who's performing fraud, that's great, because I don't like fraud. I've been in transactions where there was somebody impersonating somebody else, and it's scary, it's uncomfortable, and nobody wants to be in that position. So stopping fraud is really awesome. High on the list of priorities. Something we all want to do. So this is what we have these feature sets built for. Now, just to show you, based on this landing page, because this is where it takes effect, a user of ours, Jeff, everybody knows Jeff from the Notary family. He's fantastic, and he requested a privacy feature. So we built that just for him. I think people will like that. It's going to be on the web and also on the mobile app. So I don't know if you're here, Jeff, maybe you're not, but when you click on this, it's going to hash the signer's names. And that was his biggest concern. He said, well, an edge case, meaning very rarely will this happen. Maybe if I have my journal open, my app, and my phone's down, somebody might see the name of somebody else. And for privacy reasons, we don't want that. So I said, well, no problem, let's fix that. So this functionality will be on both the mobile app and web, where you can just hash those names out to protect these people's identity. So that's for you, Jeff. Hope you like it once we roll this out. We have the exports. This is where you can export your stuff on a month-to-month basis. And then we also have the sequence report. And this will help bolster you as a notary if you ever have to prove the sequential nature of your journal. So for example, here's an export of it. And this here goes over all the information of the notary who's generating this report. And it just provides a high level overview of the actual entry sequential nature. So for the month of March, this is the sequential nature based on the unique identifier and our backend saying, yeah, that's when he saved these. These are accurate timestamps. So some states do, require you to have a sequential journal, only one at a time. We just want to be able to help you, again, protect yourself if you have to show that, hey, this is sequential. And moving into a digital environment does create more of a need to be able to prove that, as opposed to your hardbound journal where, it'd be pretty obvious up front if somebody just whited out something and then tried to replace it or something sketchy, it'd be an immediate red flag. In a digital environment, we have to go above and beyond to prove such things. So this is one of the things that we're providing for you guys as well too. This is where you export on a month-to-month level the entries that you did for that time frame. The new entry workflow is where you now can create your signings. And the functionality
Nick,
will be.
Hey Nick, can we? I'm so sorry. I just want to take a breath for a second because you're throwing a lot at us here, and this is awesome. And Laura, as one of your super users and raving fans, I just want to say, Laura, is there any? Is this a moment to just pause and say, "Wow, that's cool," or "What's this?" or
Well, I think that the ability to prove that it was done in sequence is super important. I have been called to testify for my own journal once, but as an expert witness more often, where there has been fraud. And of course, in California, we're talking multi-million-dollar cases. And the paper journals, unless you're a notary who really took the time to make sure that every single one was identified with its time spot as well. Attorneys poke holes, and it was so easy to poke holes in the paper journals, and they just didn't support the case very well. And this is so well documented for me that, there's just nowhere for them to go. There's no hole for them to poke. And I love that. And I love that for other notaries as well. Because the first thing I tell them to do is check the journal.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great.
Exciting stuff, Nick.
Yeah, that's so important. And people might underplay the importance of journaling. And I think that's one of the frustrations I saw was, the people doing in our state, you can't do it, but people are doing the hash marks, drawing lines for redundant information that they didn't want to fill in. But you could catch yourself in a bad position years later when that's requested, and all you've got is, a line item that has one signature and a thumbprint and a bunch of hash marks that doesn't support the case. And the lawyers say, well, that's garbage, so we're not going to use that. And the implications legally are tremendous, not just for the court case, but for you as a notary, because you're not compliant with your state law. So we do try to provide enough, and these timestamps with this auto log, again, they're very hard to refute. I took his thumbprint here at this time. He signed here at this time. I scanned his ID at this time. There's so much information, and this seems to be the direction that we need to go to get with the times and to prevent fraud that is evolving at a faster rate than the hardbound journals are evolving. Let's put it that way. They're getting better and better at it, and without any change in our industry, we're falling behind. So our goal here is to help that not happen. So, and thanks for making that pause. I could take a drink and catch my breath and keep going. The the cool thing about this new experience, and I won't bore you guys with the details of this are the same, right? You could add your saved locations, easily move through, add the signers, all that stuff. There is a difference here in that now we have this manually selected notarization date and time, so people will have to get used to the flow of adding that in manually as well, and that'll be also added to the audit log. So then when you view the audit log, you'll have all those timestamps that are important to you. Just in case you need to export that. So without boring you guys on that, this is obviously synced, by the way. Everything is synced. Once you save this and upload it to the servers, it's synced to your phone. You go on your phone, you're going to see it right there. The only thing that's not synced is drafts. They've never been synced across multiple devices. So that means if you start a draft here, you can't finish it on your phone. And that's something that we may try to fix in the future, but it's a very complicated process to take data that is not stored permanently and then make it accessible by multiple devices, and then have those changes reflected upon multiple devices in different environments. It's very difficult, and our bandwidth is not such that we want to spend time doing that yet. So if you create a draft on one device, finish it on that device. But we do let people know that documentation says, hey, just so you know, you can't sync across multiple devices with your drafts. But the saved entries, they are. You can manage your entire document library. I was just talking with a user yesterday about the document types. We give you guys a pretty robust document library up front, but there are so many different types of documents that we'll never keep up. The requests in the beginning for adding new documents to the library was unheard of. So you can just always add more based on your industry and the people you work with. Easily add new document types, and that way they'll be saved in your personal library, which is great. Favorite locations, where if you work in the same place over and over and over again, you can just quickly put that in the entry. And the signing packages is big for us people who do the loans or the trusts, because you can group together your documents, and then you can easily just input that into your journal entry as you go. You click 2 buttons instead of 25 trying to add all the documents. That makes a big deal, especially if you work with the same client over and over. So I would always, when I was in the field, I would always see the same lenders. So I would always have the same base plate of their docs: deed of trust, financial status affidavit, the heirs and emissions compliance agreement, and a couple others. So I would create a base plate for that, touch the one button, load it up, and then if I had to add a few more, maybe for a trust certification for in and out of the trust, 2 grant deeds, boom, I'm in and out super fast. So this is a feature that came from being a loan signing agent, so very specific to that field and trusts and whatnot. And the rest of it, in the experience is pretty straightforward. The device list where you could block your stuff, verifying your account, the affiliate program. The feature request is the last thing I wanted to show you guys here, because we talk about how important the feedback is from our users. And right now you could just email us and whatnot. We have something in-app that sends kind of a generic email to us on the back end, and we see it. But here we're creating a more interactive way for people to provide feedback. So we're giving you a place where you can create a post for some type of feedback, and other people can upvote it, similar to Reddit. Then you can go ahead and view it. You can comment on it, and it'll all be synced to your account for login status, meaning once you're logged in, it'll know what your name is, and you'll be able to just go ahead and chat, add value here if you want, and then really see what's in the pipeline, because it's very important for us to have people give us that feedback, and then now you'll be able to kind of vote on it and communicate with us better. So it's very important we take that very seriously, and we continue to build out new features for that purpose. And on that note, we also have added intercom. So you can see at the very bottom here, what we have is we have the little intercom icon that will also check your login status. It'll know who you are. So it says, "Hi, Nick." It just does that automatically because we have the backend sync with logged in users. And this will be an area where we can provide a much more individual and unique support experience for our users, to guide them on how to use a product, for feedback, for suggestions, all that great stuff. So a lot of our features are being developed in order to continue pursuing a better product. Nothing is perfect. We haven't taken our foot off the gas. There's a reason why there's continual app updates, and it's because we care about making the product better. So on that note, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just stop my screen share, because I showed you guys most of that fun stuff here, which was awesome. And what I wanted to touch on is a few other things that people have asked for that we're putting into V2 as well that aren't really displayable. Actually, you know what? One of them is. One of them is, so let me show it to you, the fees. People have asked about the fees often. And, this kind of ties into people asking about a better set of accounting, accounting software, if you will. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be allowing you to add in a more robust fashion the notary fees. Instead of just one flat fee, you could put a flat fee. Maybe it's going to be what you could charge per document if you're doing one document. But now we're going to add the additional fees for you to add for whatever you'd like, right? So you can go ahead and put the travel fee if you want. You can make that there. You could add more fees here. This one's going to be a print fee of 25. So we're going to be allowing you to just better track your own fee structure. And the way the journal works right now, or at least hardbound journals, you got one fee spot, right? So one fee spot, do with it what you will. And if you want to add more in the notes, you can do that. For us in the app right now, we have a similar just one fee spot. If you want to add more, you could add document notes or signing level notes at a high level. And so now we'll be able to allow you to add a more robust set of fees to be captured while still maintaining one single sole and separate notary fee section for compliance purposes, depending on what your state is requesting. So more, yes, Laura.
And the fee there,
Yes.
remind me, can you put like 10 times 15, or do you need to put 150?
You need to put 150.
Okay.
Yeah, but we can still do, like, for example, we can still do the what most people do now, which would be the document level notes too. So for many notaries who do want, for example, to just put $15 per document, that they can go ahead and add the notes right here, fee assessed, for example, and that way you can add notes specific to that document if you have a lot and you want to track that. You do have the one general notary fee section, like the hardbound journals also provide. And then again, we allow you to break down now and add various different types of fees. And then those will be something that you could view on the dashboard as well too, once we put the APIs in place. Did that answer your question, Laura?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So that one was a good one to show you guys. The other one I'll tell you that I can't show you because it's on the app. I didn't plug my phone in, but that's fine. We do have, for anybody I don't know if anybody is in Texas here, we have Texas mode coming with V2. Oh. Texas mode is a culmination of just, again, the feedback, how to make a notary's life easier. In California, for me, the biggest thing was the thumb printing. So we developed that technology to integrate a Bluetooth thumbprint scanner with our app and then logically associate it and encrypt it on the back end. That was making my life easier as a California notary. The Texas notaries, one of their biggest things as they started using our app is they say, I scanned that ID and it's super fast and I love it, but I am prohibited by law from capturing the serial number on their IDs. I can't do that. So is there a way to do that? And I say, well, scan it because it'll be fast. And then just go into that text field and delete it, and that'll be way faster still than manually entering all that data. But still, that requires them to remember after scanning to delete that information. So Texas mode will be something that they could just enable from the menus, and it will just omit that serial number upon scanning. So for anybody who is in Texas or in a state that they just don't want to do that, then they'll be able to just turn on Texas mode, and they could just omit automatically on an ID scan that serial number. It'll pull all the other information that they can legally pull to identify that person, but it won't pull that serial number. So Texas mode is coming as well too with V2, which is pretty exciting. Just the small things. To me, that's what excites me. If I could alleviate one person's pain point, then probably more people experience it and haven't voiced their opinion yet. So then I'm probably trying to solve more than that. And the only other thing too that's on the app as well for V2, we're going to add in your menus the oath and affirmation scripts, so you can easily access oath and affirmation scripts on the go. So if you pull up your journal on the phone, you'll be able to just in the menus hit oath affirmation script, and you'll have a template that we provide you that you could then edit that will be verbiage for you to use for oaths and for affirmations. So if you're giving an oath and affirmation, maybe you have a cheat sheet in your briefcase, maybe you have to pull up some other type of verbiage that you have saved somewhere. we're just going to give you that as an editable, text document pretty much within the app, so that you could quickly and easily perform an oath and affirmation while doing the notary journal at the same time, in and out super quick. So that was another request people had, so we're putting that in there for everybody. And that was pretty much the demo of that. So before I go into the what is in the pipeline section, what I did want to do is I want to touch on the questions I see in the chat first. So I'll touch on those, and if anybody has questions they want to ask live, then please do. I have when is V2 due out?
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, go ahead. Answer this first.
Awesome. Awesome. I'll bang these out. So V2 should be out in a couple of weeks. Now, just like Bill said in his last chat, sometimes it gets pushed out longer than expected. We wanted to have it out in June. It's not out in June yet. So it's on the cusp of being finalized. We just need a few more APIs to integrate subscription management. And so I'd say a couple of weeks, mid to late July at the latest. So that's for you, Melissa. We have another one for are there unique report formats for annual tax filing? No, not yet. We did talk about how we don't want to cross over the product line and create something that is now accounting software, but we do want to give you a better set of insight reporting into your own data, if you will. So that we are making a way more robust reporting system that will provide more insight into the fees you have collected for a certain time frame. I'll probably put some disclaimers in there, regarding whether or not we recommend you using that for tax purposes, or making sure you double check that. We always want to be careful, but we do have more reporting for functions coming out a little bit after V2. V2 is going to launch with the same set of features for exporting, with the addition of the sequential of report, and then we're going to go ahead and revamp the reporting as well too.
Yeah, real quick, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
We'll pause for just a second, because I want to clarify. So many people think the journal is a bookkeeping tool, and I think it's real important to designate that it is not a bookkeeping tool. Your bookkeeping system is bookkeeping. Your journal is for your state compliance or best practices. And Laura, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah.
Something that you would just reiterate, because I think that's so important.
I think I'm glad you pointed that out, Bill, because first of all, for many states, not all, but many, that's a public record. And I don't know if you want your business records to be public records. So that's the first concern I would have there. The second thing is that its purpose is to document the legal transaction you just performed, which is notarization. And that's what its purpose is for. It's to hold a record of that. And so we want to make sure that everything we do relating to that comes back to that mission, right? So that it supports, and I loved how Matt said it's the backbone, right? It's what supports that notarization after you walk away from the table. So that's where our focus should be. And if this product, which it does, makes it easier for me to collect a lot more information, indisputable information about that, then I'm going to meet that mission without taking more time to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And then Nick, before we dive in, I just want to make sure, because we had asked Matt Miller from the California League of Independent Notaries to monitor the chat and track our questions. So I just want to make sure, Matt, do you have a system? Do you have some questions already lined up for us that maybe we can toggle and just throw to Nick? Or do you want us to just go through ourselves? You tell me.
I have a few here that I've queued up.
Awesome.
For example, what devices does your product work on, Nick?
Yeah, and I'll start by apologizing for skipping right over Matt being the moderator. I was just trying to be proactive there. My apologies, Matt.
We got you.
We are mobile on Android, all Android and all iOS devices. One of the questions that we'll just tie into is what devices does this work best on? Our experience is Apple devices, because they have a more structured and strict development environment for us developers. So when we develop something, we have to jump through a lot more hoops. But the end game of that is that we have a product that runs smoother and more consistently across Apple's devices. We get the majority of our bug reports come from Android devices, because they have so many different manufacturers and then so many different operating systems at the same time. And they are a bit more difficult to make streamlined. They'll have one user with a very slow experience on some ancient Android tablet, and then they'll have a new Samsung phone, and then boom, super fast lightning speed. And there's nothing we can do as a developer about that. The development environment is such to where we develop the product and submit it to the stores, Google Play stores, app stores, and then it will run accordingly, however the device is able to handle it. And so that is the unfortunate part about Android, but it's also what's great about Android is you have such a wide variety of things to choose from. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, great. Matt, what else you got?
The next question, which kind of I thought was curious too, is Nick, could you explain in the situation where you receive a journal entry request, or God forbid, your journal is subpoenaed by a peace officer, how do you handle that?
Very good question. Right now, our exporting options allow you to handle those on a case-by-case basis, meaning if you have a subpoena request for because the requests typically have to specify, unless you're being audited or there's a specific time frame in question, and that would not technically be considered or normally considered to be part of a, we'll say, a subpoena for a lawsuit or a court case. The court cases, they're pretty much going to ask for, you're the notary, you did the deed of trust for John Doe on this date. Do you have a copy of that entry? You'll be able to quickly search in your journal. Yes, I do. You could export that to PDF, and then you could ask them, do you want this digitally delivered? I can email it to you, or I can just print that out and give you a paper copy. Now, the alternative and the way exporting works on a hardbound journal is, if we've done it before, it's a hassle. You take your book, you open it up, you put privacy covers and construction paper over everything but the entry that they want, and then you put that awkwardly into a scanner, and then you provide a scan, you scan it, and it'll give you the copy, the paper copy. And that is I can't find the right, ridiculous, that's a good word, unbearable, difficult,
Inefficient,
hard,
Cumbersome.
inefficient. Yeah, we can go on with that. Yeah, so our ability to provide a single entry export on a signing level or an entry level, and what that means is one document, you could pull that. Or if you have a signing package that had 5 documents and you want to provide all 5 of those in one entry, we could go ahead and export that PDF as well too. And then if you have a specific time frame being requested, you can currently export month to month, so based on the month time frames. And that is one of the areas where we do fall short. That's why we're building a better reporting system to allow you to manually manipulate the time frames so that you could pull just January 21st through February 4th. That specific set of time, we can't currently allow you to do, on a batch level. Right now, you would just have to go through the journal entries one by one and export them to PDF, or you could export all of January's and all of February's, right? So that's one area we fall short that we're going to be building a better solution for soon. But that is how you would handle a request or an export for a longer period of time.
Great. And then, the last question that kind of came up was, what would I have to do to get started with you right now?
Well, that's an easy one. Just go onto the website. There's some links down here in the chat that people have thrown up. Laura's got links connected to us as well. We have a 14-day free trial, which is great, and that means no credit card upon sign up. I don't do that. I don't like that. I remember when we were looking at the pricing structures, and people were saying just have them put the credit card at the sign up, and that way that they'll convert more quickly. And I said, no, that's shady. I don't like it. It's more intrusive. I don't like that. I'm a notary too. I'm a person, and I've had subscription services where I wanted the free trial, but then wanted my credit card, and so then I just didn't even do the free trial. So now I never got the product. So we don't do it that way. We just allow you to have 14 days for free. You can create up to 5 free signings. And then after that, then you can add a credit card and convert if you want. So that's the easiest way. Just go to the website, juredinc.com, or one of the links down below that Laura has and Bill have. So those are pretty easy. 14 days free. Go check it out.
Yeah, that's great. And Tim just posted a great question. I think this, I'd love to hear your answer on this, Nick. He said, what's some advice on getting elderly to sign the eJournal? A lot of them have a hard time signing a regular hard copy journal. On the phone, you also need to make sure that their finger or hand doesn't touch the screen while signing with a stylus. So what is your advice to make this easy?
It's tough because it is a case by case basis with certain demographics of people being able to sign, and this goes for hardbound journals too. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's hardbound journal or you know the electronic ones, a lot of times people have an issue with trying to get it to look correct. One of the things I like to remind notaries is that our job as a notary, as a public servant, is to be the reason why we're in front of that person is we are appearing them and we are verifying after proving their identity that that is their signature. So I do like to help people or alleviate their stress when they come up in the beginning and say, it's not going to look like my regular signature. And I say, don't worry, we're going to do what you naturally do for your signature. And the reason I'm here is because I am confirming that it is you signing this document and signing my journal. That is of the utmost importance. That's the integrity of our profession as a public servant. So I have heard of horror stories of a notary that would just make people re-sign 1,000,000 times to make sure it looked identical. And I find that to be maybe like a masochist, somebody who's abusive. They like to put people in pain, make them do things over and over again. It is very important to make sure that it is legible to the point of the lenders accepting it, to the recording entities accepting it, to make sure that it's not too faint, using the right type of ink, or in our case, you don't have to worry about that. But it is case by case. I always recommend people to carry styluses with you. I'm sure Laura will attest to it. You know, I just bought a ton as well on Amazon. I just carry these cheaper little ones. I bought them like a 20 pack, you know, and people can easily sign with them. I carry multiple types, some with a fine tip, some with a kind of a thicker tip so that they can do a little bit better. So case by case.
Yes.
Yeah, Laura, I'd love to hear Laura
Yeah.
too.
So I'm going to tell you, first of all, I was a little worried about that at first. But what I found is that they didn't have really any issue with using the stylus. I use the stylus version that has that circular tip at the bottom, that plastic clear tip, so that it kind of flattens out right onto the screen, and it gives a little more stability to the pen. Their signatures actually sometimes look better there than they do on paper. They are participating in something that's like cool and new, right? And so they're kind of excited about doing that. And I do a lot of work with elderly, in particular, infirmed, as well as people who can't even sign their name. And Nick didn't actually talk about this yet, but he has the ability to handle signature by mark. And if you're in a state that handles signature by mark, that's really important, because the person has to make a mark, and then you're going to need a signature by a witness. And then you need to capture the witness's information. And that's all available to us on this journal. Again, I just, do the IDs. I don't have to collect IDs for signature by mark witnesses, but that's available if your state requires you to get that information from all witnesses. Not all states do. So he really made it flexible for me to be able to utilize that, because I probably handle signature by mark 2 or 3 times a month, every month, sometimes more. And I've yet had a client who couldn't deal with it.
Nice. And Viviano just chimed in too. He said he uses his iPad 12 Pro, and he's never had anybody have an issue with that, because that's a good size screen too. So I think we have time for 2 more questions, Nick, if you've got a little bit of time, these last 2 that just came through. And then I want to check back in with Matt just to make sure we didn't miss anything critical here. But the 2 questions here are...
There's one last question that asks, in the case of a multi-commission state notary...
Oh, yes, that's one of the ones I wanted to ask. That's perfect. Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah, I see that. And so we allow you to add multiple notary profiles, which allow you to keep track of having multiple commissions, but we don't create sole and separate journals for each state. Now, depending on those states' laws, you may be required to retain sole and separate journals, meaning only one sequential journal at a time. If that's the case, you will need 2 separate accounts. At this point, we don't have the ability for you to create 2 sole and separate journals under the same account and then access them both at the same time. So you would log in, you would create an account for your, Washington State notary commission, and then one for your Oregon, for example. and you'd have to retain those separately if your law requires it. Now, some laws might not require it to be sequential. They might, excuse me, they might allow you to just retain multiple or keep them together. So it's an interesting edge case, and people have requested the option to have sole and separate under one account. We'll probably get there one day, but we're not quite there yet.
All right, great. Thank you. And then just to follow, so there's two questions because I skipped Jeff's earlier, but I'll come back to Jeff's. The next one, Amy has asked a couple times, and thank you for doing that, Amy, so we don't miss it. But can you go over the ID capture again, how that works again?
Totally. And that's one of the features that people love the most. So Amy, when you're scanning IDs, you'll pretty much go into step 2, you'll add a signer, and you'll choose how you identify them, right? So as an identification method, the most commonly used one is going to be the ID, instead of 1 credible witness, 2 credible witness, personally known, for example. We have all those options for you to select, but you'll just select, add identification, and then you can manually enter it, or you can just hit the scan ID button. You hit that button, and it'll prompt you to scan the front, and then it'll prompt you to flip it over. You'll scan the back, and it'll scalp all that information in real time, put it into the appropriate data fields, but then it won't store that picture. So again, it's a real-time scalp of that data, and it'll compare the front to the back. So we didn't talk about it, but it's actually one of the really useful features for fraud deterring. We take the front, we scalp it, we flip it over, we take the barcode. If there is any mismatch of data, we alert you as a notary and we say, hey, there's a mismatch here of information. Here's what the front says. Here's what the back barcode has encoded into it. And this is just to help you as a notary make the call for yourself, the judgment call as to whether or not something is fraudulent or maybe just maybe a clerical error. So for example, sometimes people see it happen with like a junior or a senior designation, and they'll say, oh, it pulled up on the front with junior, but then on the barcode, it has junior encoded in, like, we'll say the middle name section or something. So there's a times where that'll happen. And then you as a notary just make the judgment call, say, that's not an issue of fraud. I don't have to worry about it. The ID is valid, right? But if you pull the front and it says John Doe, and then you pull the barcode and it says, Jane Smith, you're probably going to want to ask some questions. And the idea is here to just help you deter fraud in the beginning by saying, gosh, this might be a red flag. I got to look at this. Let me dig into it and then make that judgment call as a notary as to what I'm going to do next. Maybe I'll ask for more IDs or not. But in terms of, the IDs and collecting the information, it's a quick 2 or 3 seconds. You scan the front, you scan the back, boom, it's in. If it's expired, we flag it too. So we let you know it's expired, but we don't prevent you from moving forward, because many states allow you to still move forward with an expired ID if it was issued in the past X time frame. Did that answer that question?
And Nick, it's not photographing. And I think that's the key. It's not a photograph. It's just pulling the data from it. Just like I was at Costco yesterday and I bought some wine, and they scan my card just to make sure I'm 21 and it's a legit ID, but it doesn't save the information on that. It's just a quick little scan of that.
Yeah.
And so I want to just add right there, because I think somebody asked it and I don't remember hearing it, Nick. Now I go into places that are pretty remote and there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Right. And so I can still use my journal. I don't need Wi-Fi to do that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
That's correct. And right in the beginning, we knew we had to create something that had offline functionality, can't be tied to constant connection. And that was for viability. We needed this product to be usable by people who go out in the middle of nowhere. And I would do the same at times. So the way our system works is you have 12 hours of app functionality while offline from your most recent point of authentication with the server. Meaning, if you open the app at 8 a.m. At home, logged in, you're connected to the internet, no problem. And you shut your phone down, or you just, close the app. You go to a sign off at 3 p.m. So now we're dealing with, much longer time, 7 hours later. You're still in that 12-hour time frame, but you get there and you realize, I have no cell service. What do I do? Well, you open up the app and we're still going to allow you to do everything you need to do. You can add all the information and then you could save the entry. And the entry will be saved and it'll be marked as complete and pending upload. so that whenever you get back into an area where you have cell service, you get back home, you just open up the app again. You'll see that you have one pending saved draft that needs to be uploaded, and then you upload it. Now, the only time you're really, really, really stuck is if you decide that maybe you haven't done an entry for a week. So you haven't opened up and been authenticated with our servers for a long time, and you find yourself in the middle of nowhere with no service. You're going to find yourself on the login page of the app. And of course, because you have no service, you won't be able to log in. That's not happening. That's the worst case scenario. And in those situations, I would just say, of course, ask to see if those people have Wi-Fi, or find a solution that allows you to find connectivity maybe down the road. The simple solution is just wake up in the morning. If you know you have a sign off in an area that might be rural, wake up in the morning, open up the app, log in, and then close it. And then you're good to go, because it'll have 12 hours worth of offline functionality for you. And that is very, very important.
I think that, I'm sorry, Bill, that connects to the next question that I saw, which is how frequently I have to keep relogging into the app when I'm in the middle of an assignment. And by the time I write the document, I got it. Well, I do a face recognition, so then I don't have to use the code.
Right. And so the way it works now is that we offer you the ability to use Face Touch ID, whichever one is valid on your device, and that will allow you to bypass adding in the password. But if we ever encounter while you're logged in any issues with connectivity, you may find yourself booted to the homepage, or you might find yourself having to input your password more often for security purposes. And we do tread a fine line between making the app too accessible to where some type of bad actor could easily access it because they just picked up your phone and we didn't require any further authentication. So there's the worst case scenario, and then there's the other end of it, which is, gosh, there's too much friction here. I hate having to add my password every time. So we are looking at implementing something called Dscope, and this is something that will hopefully allow us to provide a better set of features that will remember who you are based on certain features, biometric features, face IDs, touch IDs, to provide a more streamlined experience. Tim, we haven't forgot about you. We've just been building V2 to the point to get it up to the mobile app to where we could then have a better foundation to build on from there. So a better sign-in process is on the way. It's definitely on the list of things we're working on. And then as a notary, you'll have the option to select how strict do you want to be. So for example, we're also looking at again, multi-factor authentication. And that's really, really robust, right? Not only might you have to enter your password, but you might have an authenticator app with a special code that re-evolves every 30 seconds. And you have to enter that in. Like that's like from the movies. But that's also really cool because you think about the data security there. So some people might not want it. So you could easily turn that feature off once we release it. But some people might want that extra set of multi-factor authentication kind of security that provides. So Tim, we haven't forgot about you, and I appreciate the patience because this V2 has been such a large rebuild of the backend from the ground up that I do feel like there are a lot of requests that have been pending for half a year that I want to get to, but I can't get to it yet. So we're working on that, Tim. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Those are great questions. And we still have a couple more, Nick. We probably realistically we're already gone past the time, way past the time, but we've got some good questions. Do you have a few?
I love questions. I love questions.
Let's do it because Jeff says, when will you fix the signature panel, which has buttons that take up too much space on the iPad?
Jeff, did you see my presentation for the privacy mode that I did just for you?
Jeff, are you here?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. Sorry, I'll have to do the replay. Sorry.
Yeah. You conveniently log in at the part where you get to just totally just ream me with Q&A, and you missed out on the me saying this is just for Jeff.
Yeah.
So we do have privacy mode coming for you, Jeff. Hope you're excited about it. Check the replay for that. Regarding the signature panels. Here's the biggest issue we have with it: the dimensions of the screen. Every time it changes, messes things up. Trying to find out if people like the little bar here or there more is really difficult because it's subjective. So with V2, what you will see is a bar that has buttons that can be hidden. And then when it's hidden, it will have a little eye icon, little line through it showing that it's hidden. And that way, if you want to bring up that panel again, you can bring up the panel and you could hit the clear or the save button. And if you want to hide it, you could hit hide and it'll have the whole screen available so that the people can use the whole screen. And I hope that solves the problem, but this seems to be like a tug of war where we are constantly trying to make the signature panel as optimal as possible, including things like the stroke width. This is I don't think people understand how difficult that is to do. Android has tool sets for you to build multiple stroke widths. Apple says, no, you're screwed. You get one stroke width. That's all you get, unless you want to build from the ground up an entire, pencil widget thing. And we're like, gosh, where do we put the time and energy? So the signature panel hopefully will be solved with this
Come
V2
on, Nick.
update.
Come on, Nick. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Just
You know what?
width.
I'll bring you in on our next team chat on Friday, me and the developers, and I'll let them know. I'll say, Bill says that
I'm
this
already
is not very
zooming
difficult.
I got one more question from Larry, if you don't mind, Nick. I think this is an important question too. He says, so you can only use this on one device, it sounds like, at one time. Like you can't have it on both your phone and an iPad. Is that true, or is that not correct?
So that's incorrect. Yeah, you could. It's cloud based. So once these entries are stored to the server, you could access them on any device that you sign in with. So you could jump back and forth between an iPad and an iPhone. You can go to the Android to iPad all the time. And now with V2, since you can create entries on V2 web app, you'll be able to create an entry on the web app that you can see on your phone and vice versa. So it is cloud-based. So once it syncs to the server, it is everywhere, which is very convenient because we do have a lot of users who want to maybe use an iPad or they want to use their phone. I just want to use my phone. I just want to have the quickest, easiest, super accessible. And even if that means that the signing pad is smaller for some of our users, but for me, I like that, right? But some people, they have their dedicated iPad. They bring it and it's a nice, awesome experience because they put that right there, boom. Everything's nice and easy for the client. So everything does sync. The only thing, Larry, just to remember that doesn't sync is the drafts. So drafts, because they are not saved and finalized and locked, they are not synced across multiple devices. So that's the only thing. Now, the use case for needing a draft to be synced to a different device is very rare. Chances are, if you create a draft on one device, you're going to finish it on that device because that's probably your device of choice that you go into the field with. So the use case is very rare where somebody really wants their draft synced to a different device. And that's why it's not very important for us to delve into that right now. So pretty much everything's going to be, and that goes for the same for your signing packages, your document library, your favorite locations. All that stuff is accessible and synced across all your devices immediately, which is very convenient.
So it just basically means you can't start it using the mobile app on your phone. You can't start a signing and then end on your iPad or on the web. So as long as you use the same device through the entire appointment, you're good. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. Yep, easy,
Beautiful.
easy. And then and let me touch on BK's question from
Great.
204. That was a half hour ago. Sorry for the delay, BK. He just says, I was sworn in yesterday. Do I need any special equipment as a mobile notary, such as a MiFi, to operate this electronic journal? Now, we did touch on that with the no connectivity required. You have 12 hours of offline functionality. So while you don't need to be connected to the server, you need to have been authenticated in the past 12 hours. So that's very important. We do, I do carry a personal hotspot because I have my briefcase, I have my stuff. So I do carry that, but I've also been in a situation where if I don't have cell service on my phone, then I probably don't have hotspot service either, right? So that is something that happens. And then we have, the only thing that you do need is the thumbprint reader, right? So that is something that we also sell directly from our website. That's $149, the one-time purchase for your digital thumbprint. It's a Bluetooth device, super small, compact, internal battery, lasts forever, really hefty. You could defend your home with it, and it just connects via Bluetooth. So you can easily just capture those thumbprints on the fly. And then the cost on a monthly basis at $9 a month or $90 a year. If you pay yearly, you get a discount. So that is for BK.
And that's, I love that we got a chance to even mention that, because that Bluetooth device for the thumbprint capture is a game changer, necessary in California. But the fact that you have that functionality and can make that happen is so important. I just want to reiterate, you can learn about the Notary eJournal, of course, at juratinc.com, but of course at coachmelaura.com as well. She's got a direct link. She's a super user and raving fan of this, obviously. And we have to wrap up here. I love that 90 of you have stayed on to learn about this tool, because tools like this that make you more efficient, save you time, can make you money. Nick, thank you so much for spending the last hour with us. Any closing comments you'd like to leave us with?
No, I will be that jerk that slips in the answer to the last question. Sharon said, what's the turnaround for tech support? If there's any issues, super fast. I manage all that myself. So I do try to within an hour or two, especially if it's a hardcore technical issue, very fast. So wanted to throw that in there. Last minute statements. Thank you guys. I remember when I first came onto a call in Clubhouse, and I just reached out to a few people. I said, who's this Bill guy? He seems kind of cool. Laura seems like she knows what she's talking about. Let's go ahead and reach out to these people, and see what they think. And the reception was amazing, and I can't thank you enough for that. So thank everybody for giving us a shot. We are a product that is continually evolving, taking that feedback, making it better based on the feedback that you provide. So that is super important to me as a business owner, and as a notary who's still in the field. So I can't thank you guys enough, and I appreciate all the support that I have received. Everybody's been great, and of course Matt for manning that chat. Matt's awesome, and you know what? He cares about the industry. That's what I love about everybody up here. Matt cares, Laura cares, Bill. They're genuine people. They're not just here trying to push something upon you that will only benefit them. They care about the industry, and they constantly seek knowledge, and of course then being able to bestow that knowledge upon us. So thank everybody for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, awesome, Nick. Laura, any closing words from you too? Because as the raving fan for Nick, thank you, Nick.
All I can say is it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. It was a game changer for my business. I can get more appointments in. I can spend more time communicating with my signers. And my handwriting wasn't that great to begin with to try to read in a hard copy journal as it is. So I just have to say, if you have not at least done the trial to check what that is like, do so, because this is what's coming, guys. Really, Ron's happening, but this is happening too. We need to make sure we update our tools so we stay current. And this is a great way to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you for growing yourself and your business on a Tuesday. If you're part of the Notary Business Builder community, I will see you in about 16 minutes for our accountability call. Every week we meet on Tuesdays to help hold each other accountable for our goals. If I'm not going to see you there, I will see you the same time, same place next week for Tuesday Notary Titans, 12 p.m. on every Tuesday. Bye-bye.